Welcome to Brew Day. Today is, what's today?
29th?
May 29th, 2016. We're starting here at 9:30 a.m. and we're going to brew a orange wheat. Don't have a name for it just yet, but something new. And if I can flip this, maybe I can't flip it now, but here we're getting the mash tun ready. Starting with our manifold in there, and first layer of grain. There's Sweet Pea and Aiden, my brew assistants.
I say hi, Aiden.
Say hi, little brewer. Some more grains we're gonna add, and then over here we have our first water that's heated, and we're waiting for it to come back down to about 150 before we start the process of mashing. We're almost there. So this is step one, mashing. We're gonna mash in step mash, where we'll go from about 133, 35 degrees for 30 minutes and step it up to about 150 degrees for another 45 minutes. And we should have the sweet wort that we need for the boiling process and the brewing process. So for now, we're out, and we'll show you what it looks like once we get the water mixed in. Okay, we are mashed in. There's our mash. Our temperature should be around 35. Looks like we're just about right there. Maybe just a little bit warmer, but that should be okay too. So always some heat as the process goes. We've mixed our grain and our water. And the conversion from starch to sugars begin. And again, we'll step mash. So this is the first step at 130, 35 degrees. And we'll bring the temperature up to 150 after about 30 minutes. And mash for another 45 minutes. Make sure we get all the conversion. And our little helper is thoroughly enjoying his experience. Right, little man? Is it brew day?
Yeah.
You gotta put your brew onesie on. Okay. Thanks for your help. Keep brewing. Welcome back. Brew day. We're ready for the step up in our mash and the heat. So our mash tun's been mashing and converting for 30 minutes at about 135 degrees. And we're getting ready to add some boiling water. It's actually 5 quarts. And that should bring our temperature up to about 150, 55 degrees. So we're gonna add that, stir it up, and mash for another 45 minutes before we end the mash process. So when we're back, we had a small issue with reaching our desired temp, so what I did is take out a few quarts, bringing that to a boil. And now we will reintroduce that into the mash tun and hopefully get our temperature up to about 150 degrees. We were about 145 and just wanted to make sure we get at least to 150, and this should do it. So some of the steps you learn along the way, and if you don't reach that desired temperature, you don't have to keep adding water. You can just take some out, bring that to a boil, and put it back in. And hopefully you'll get to the temperature you need to be at. So let's give it a try and see if we can achieve that temperature and get this mash done. Hi there, we're back now. Got the proper brewing attire on. My Brew Day shirt. Cleaned up a little bit. So we're ready for the next step of the mashing and step up the temperature. And what we do here is we brought some of our wort. It's turning into wort from the mash tun, and heated that up to 175, 180 degrees. So we can now put this back to the mash tun and raise that temperature up instead of adding more water to it. So we keep the mash tun volume at the required level. Don't get it too saturated. So we got the mash tun that mashed for 45 minutes at 150 degrees. Brought out about 1.5 gallons out of it and heated that up to 175. I'm going to bring that back into the mash tun, and we should get a temperature slightly around 160, 158, 160 is what we want. Keep that for about 10-15 minutes, and then we're going to stop the mash conversion process by raising the temperature up even a little higher, and then we'll start the sparging. So that's the next step, stepping up the temperature in the mash tun. Okay, here we are, ready for our first runoff. Yeah, my little helper's been hard at it here, helping me out. So we're gonna use the mash tun as a runoff water tun for sparging. And we brought the temperature up to stop the conversion. So now we're nice and toasty in there. Yep, Aiden, let's not get too close. It's warm or hot. And we're gonna have our first runoff. See how many gallons we get. We're gonna use the grain to create the filtration in the manifold, and then run off, and then have probably another couple sparges after that. So we're gonna get started with this, and we'll have a nice pot of wort to start our boiling and brewing process with. Trying to get the filtration to clarify a little bit. So we run off a few pitchers full at a slow rate, and as that clarifies, then we can open it up and run off complete. I'll run this off about half full. Put that back in the mash tun. Do that about 3 times, and it should be the filtration in the grains in the manifold should be good enough and clear enough to open it up and have the runoff complete. Well, we're back. Just did the first runoff, and now we're sparging. Added 5 quarts of water, bottled water at around 200 degrees, and we'll stir this up. Rinse those grains off. Nice. Get all those sugars that have been converted from starch to sugar. Mix that up good. Again, trying to rinse those grains off. Pretty warm in here. First runoff, we got about almost 2.5 gallons. It's about right for what we started with. That's mixed up nicely. We're going to close this up, let it settle for about 5 minutes, and then do our next runoff. And we'll do that at least one more time, maybe 2 more times after this, to see how much wort we've collected at that point. Hopefully enough to start the boil. Next step. Okay, we're at our 3rd runoff. We got some new helpers joining us for a brew day.
Yeah, get that. Get it.
We got our little assistant helping.
Dad.
Angus and Aunt Lynn are here. And the boys somewhere over
Let's
there.
sell some beer. Let's sell some Trogs.
There's Trogs.
Don't put it
Starting
next
a
to your
local
face.
brewery.
Da.
I started out home So, in runoff, we added 5 quarts to our mash tun. I'm gonna do one more after this. Should have enough wort then. This is running off. See, it's nice and hot in there. Holds the heat rather well. So, let this run off. Let's see how much we get on this third runoff. Except for I need one more. Okay, we're back. Getting ready to do the boil. New brew pot, stainless steel. There's our lovely wort. Ended up with I think 5.6 gallons from our sparging runoffs. So we got the wort ready. There's the setup. Flames on. Just got to bring her to the boil. Then we'll do a 60-minute boil. And we're going to use, put the hops in, do some bittering, and some flavor and aroma hops at the end. And also introduce our orange peel. Got some fresh, we're going to zest, and some dry. We'll try a little bit of both and see if we can get a little orange flavoring into our beer and have a nice, hopefully nice orange wheat brew in about 3 weeks or so. Actually it'll be about 6 weeks after bottling, fermenting and bottling. So we'll get the brew, the boil process going here. Just got to get us up to temperature and get our boil on. Alright, that's the next step, and we'll bring you back once we're ready to add some of the hops and some of the orange. Till then, we're out. Relax, have a homebrew. Alright, here we are, we're boiling. Achieved the boil. We got our hops, and we got our dry orange peel in there in my containment contraption. So we're boiling nicely. We'll do that for 45 minutes and we'll add in fresh zest and the rest of the hops. Doing a 60-minute boil. I'm not going to show you all 60 minutes. And we're relaxing and having some homebrew. Relax and have a homebrew. Cheers. Cheers.
Cheers.
Welcome back. We're getting ready now to take the wort. We've cooled it down. We're about 70, between 70 to 75 degrees. And we're going to transfer it into the primary fermenter. So that's the next step until we pitch the yeast with my handy assistant. We're going to siphon it from here into the primary fermenter and then pitch our yeast. Well, we're getting ready at this point to pitch the yeast. It's been a day-long adventure here. Actually, we've had a couple breaks in between, but it's 10:30 p.m. We start at 9:30 a.m. So a little over 12 hours, but like I said, we've taken a few breaks here and there, and the process hasn't been all that long, but definitely a day-long adventure. And if we can show you down here, we've brought the siphoned it out, the boil pot, into our primary fermenter. It's a little darker than I thought it would be, but it should be okay. And getting ready to pitch the yeast. Here's our yeast. It's definitely activated. You can see by the container as it's definitely puffed up after we activated the nutrients. The yeast has been feasting in there and ready to get pitched in, and we can start the brewing process. And I'll show you that once it gets going. I'll pitch this right now. We're at about 70 degrees in our primary, and I've siphoned it out and filtered it out using our filter. Obviously got to sanitize everything at this point that touches the soon-to-be beer, and we've done that. So I think we've taking the right precautions and getting ready here, like I said, to pitch the yeast and get that stuff chowing down and turning our sugars and sweet beer into a fermented beer. So getting ready to do that, and I'll show you again once we start fermenting with the bubbling that goes on. You can see that obviously once it starts activating in probably about 12 hours. I'll show you that tomorrow morning. All right, thanks for staying tuned, and been a long day, and we'll get this pitched here and call it a night and show you what happens. Okay, we've pitched the yeast. So it's been mixed in to our boiled soon-to-be beer. And we're setting up the airlock now on the wide mouth. And this is one little trick that I've learned through the years, especially in the summertime. In your airlock, to make sure nothing gets through that airlock into your beer. One way to prevent that is to buy the cheapest vodka you can find at the liquor store. And we'll just put a little bit of that. I put some water in there already, but we'll add a little bit of this vodka to that airlock water. And there's not a whole lot that's going to get into that water that'll make it through there into your beer. I don't think there's much of anything as far as little flying insects or crawling insects that could do that. So, once again, way to protect your precious beer, or like I said, soon to be beer, from anything from the outside getting into it. And tomorrow, hopefully, we'll wake up and find this thing bubbling nicely, as our yeast was definitely activated, as you could have seen through the last shot of the yeast packet being opened. Definitely puffed up, so that yeast was feeding on that nutrients that were in the package, and hopefully now going to town on our sweet sugar that's been boiled into our nice brew. And we'll see tomorrow what's happening. All right, thanks for staying with us all day long, and we'll see you tomorrow morning and see what's happening in our primary. Till then, relax and have a home brew. Welcome back. It's the day after we brewed, morning after, and just wanted to update you on the status of our brew. My little brew master assistant here, Apprentice. We took a gravity reading with our hygrometer, and that is actually looks like fermenting a little bit in the tube, but as we took the reading, it came out at 1.06. So that's a good starting point. And then we got the fermenter. Good activity. Our fermenter. Like the bubbles. Good head on it. So it's doing what it's supposed to do. So now we wait. And we'll keep our eye on it about 1.5 weeks in the primary and then transition to a secondary. So for now, we're going to relax and have a homebrew. Right?
Right.
Hi, welcome back to Brew Day. Today is actually Brew Day +3. It's Wednesday, so it's almost 3 days after we brewed our beer and pitched our yeast. And just wanted to give you an update on the status of our brew. So I just wanted to show you how we have it stored right now as far as the fermentation goes. I cover it up to try to block the light out of reaching into the carboy, and put a towel over it with just a slight opening to let the CO2 out of it that's bubbling up. If we look in here, we'll see that the fermentation activity is slowed considerably as far as the airlock bubbling. It's going to be bubbling very infrequently, and I'm not sure we'll even see that, but you can see inside the carboy that we are still fermenting. Still have a nice head, lots of bubbling going on in there. So looks like it's still doing what it needs to do. Looks like a nice color as far as an orange tint to it. It smells great coming out when it does bubble up. So that's where we're at right now. Thanks for joining us on this status update. Now you've seen what's going on through day 3 in the process of brewing beer. The next step, obviously we'll watch it and maybe do a little swirl to kick the yeast back into activity in a day or two. But the next major step will be a transfer from the primary fermenter into the secondary fermenter, and that's done at roughly a week and a half from our brew day. So when that happens, I'll do another status update and show you that process of transferring from primary to secondary. So that's our next step. But until then, relax and have a home brew. Thanks for joining us on Brew Day. Well, welcome back to Brew Day. As I had mentioned in the last episode, when it was time to transfer to the secondary fermenter, I would bring you a status update. So that has actually happened. I was doing it by myself, so I couldn't video and do the siphon at the same time. So I'll just show you basically the setup that we have here and how that process works. So let me flip this around for you so you can see. Let's try it this way. So here we go. That was the primary fermenter. I had the siphon here. As you can see, the primary is pretty much empty. I want to leave that last bit in there. As much as I'd like to get it all, it's better just to leave a little behind and make sure you got good, pure, clean beer in your secondary. So we've emptied that. Fermented pretty nicely. Again, here's the siphon, and then here's the secondary as we do the siphoning. Everything is sanitized from the hose to our cheesecloth to our funnel and filter, and of course the secondary fermenter carboy has been sanitized as well with our Star San. So you can see nice head on it. Again, got some oxygen going in there, so those yeast should kick back in, hopefully, and into the secondary fermenter, and we can start that process going again. But that's the process of moving it from primary to secondary. Now we'll let that rest in the secondary fermenter for another week and a half before we bottle, and of course we'll have another status update and episode when that happens. So again, thanks for joining us tonight on Brew Day, and relax and have a home brew.